roster rumbles in Oceanic CSGO. Let's get into it. Alright, Season 2, Episode 3. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am, of course, your host, vDeadline. I'm joined once again, by Brainstorm. How you doing today, mate?
Oh yeah, look, pretty good, mate. Pretty good. Good times, good counter-strikes, good things. I'm running out of things that are good, but things are good. There you go. Excellent intro.
Things have been a little bit quiet in the past week or so, and of course, this episode's coming a day or two later, so we've had a chance to look at a few things coming about in the Oceanic scene for CSGO, but let's start things off here. Brainstorm, SYF. They have returned to CSGO. We haven't seen this for quite some time. Early 2017 and maybe even 2016, if you think about their presence in the scene as of late. But, I mean, can you run through for us what this lineup is and what this actually means?
SYF, 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 whatever you want to call them, they have had teams. Previously, they've been around for a long time. I mean, if you go back, they were at the Crown Invitational with the Gunlock, Nerox, other players that I can't remember because I closed the tab. But, you know, they had a lineup ages ago there. Then last year, coming into this year, they had a lineup of, I think it was Squishy, Dexter, Chriso, and Pex, something along those lines.
Right.
Then they've been absent for the last 3 or so months. But now they've got their new lineup, which has been announced, which is a mix of a whole lot of teams, actually. So it's Lonsdale, Raz, Spikez, Busta, and Noobstr. So Lonsdale last on Avant-Garde. Raz, his last formal team was probably Winterfox, wasn't it? Spikez from Legacy, Busta, who's been everywhere and was on Alpha Sydney so far as I know, and then Noobstr of Cypher. I think that's all correct. So it's 5 players who haven't actually been in a team together recently, but they've played well so far, at least.
Yeah, quite in all sorts of a roster. And I suppose another point to make about it as well is, like, this is actually a predominantly New Zealand based roster. So, you know, I'm talking through Lonsdale, Raz, and I believe Noobstr as well. They all live in New Zealand, so we actually get to see, you know, that nice...
Go across the ditch?
Yeah, go across the ditch and see that New Zealand flag, as we don't normally see, you know, especially in, you know, rosters of 5 people. So I like to see that, predominantly New Zealand players, to, you know, see how they can compete and, you know, do their normal thing, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen too much of these guys play. I mean, obviously there's quite a lot of prestige in there, especially with, you know, names such as Raz and Lonsdale, some proven records, especially in previous lineups like Avant and Parallax. But, I mean, it's only just going to have to be a matter of time, I mean, to see how this comes to fruition and, you know, how things develop over time. I mean, you know, these guys aren't in CGP from what I know. I don't think they're even in CGI either, so they're going to have to find, you know, leagues, perhaps in ESL or Australian Esports Masters, which I believe they're in, to sort of find their skill and practice that way in officials.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to find... I went on HLTV quickly to try and find the last time they actually played, and according to HLTV, it was, you know, the previous lineup back in March of this year, which was Dexter, Chriso, Pex, Squishy, and Kuma. There you go. So...
Okay.
Alright, cool. I was hoping I could see what they were playing recently. I believe they had a run in the Asus ROG qualifiers as well. This is all stuff I should know off the top of my head, and I don't, so sorry, but I think they played there as well, but I'm not sure what they're playing, and I assume it's AEM and that sort of thing. But
yeah,
we'll find out. Either way, that's their new team, and SYF back in Counter-Strike.
Yeah, that's pretty much the main point to take away from here. You know, SYF...
Also,
go ahead.
Secondary point, SYF, website, please. Please.
We're reading a Facebook post right now, so...
Can we not use Facebook? That'd be ideal. I mean, it works well enough, but come on, guys.
Yeah. Alright, well...
Sorry, SYF, I love you.
Let's see how that pans out. SYF, long-time CSGO team, or organisation, I should say, been in the scene for many years, and it's good to see him back. Let's keep it moving, though. We have more rosters to talk about. This time, I want to talk a little bit about Tainted Minds, because they have added Zewsy to their lineup in place of Kyoto, I believe. So, again, I think you mentioned it earlier in this, well, before we started this broadcast, Tim, that it's pretty much the Tainted Fox of the lineup now, eh?
Essentially, this lineup is just Winterfox, but under a new name. I mean, if we go back to the start of this year, there is now more core players from Winterfox on Tainted Minds than there is Tainted Minds players on Tainted Minds, if that makes sense, because they've lost Liaz, Sonic, and now Kyoto, who wasn't there at the start of the year, but So they've got APOC, Offnu, and Zewsy moving in from Tainted, or from Winterfox, I should say, joining Church and Infrequent. So it's basically Tainted Fox, but it's a move that everyone saw coming. I think. I mean, when Kyoto announced his leaving, he just tweeted out, "I'm out of." I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was basically, "I'm out of Tainted Minds. I was keeping Zewsy's seat warm," or something like that. So it's only been confirmed, in the last week, but it wasn't exactly a very hidden move, and I think it's been fairly common knowledge throughout the scene that, as soon as Offnu joined, was it Offnu or APOC who joined first?
Offnu.
Offnu, I thought so. As soon as Offnu joined, it was like that they were trying to get the core of Winterfox back together, and APOC went in. Actually, speaking of Tainted Fox, they had Dexter for a while as well.
Yeah,
but he left when APOC joined. I think there was some personal issues there. I don't know, but Tainted Minds is the new home of Winterfox, and they're not in an A anymore. So who knows? Maybe they'll have some more success than they did under the name Winterfox.
Yeah, hopefully so. And I mean, obviously to point out as well, Zewsy, we haven't seen him playing for quite some time, at least after that sort of Winterfox roster in North America. So, and that's great to see, because Zewsy has been such an influential player, especially in the past year or so, in numerous lineups like Community and all that sort of thing. So for such a high impact individual to return to Oceanic Counter-Strike is always good news for just about anyone involved. Perhaps not the opponents of his team. That's probably the only thing I can think of. But nevertheless, that's pretty much Tainted Minds boot camp in a nutshell. They've decided to add Zewsy and remove Kyoto. So that has come underway in the past week or so. Moving things along now, something that people may not have expected coming out of the League of Legends side of things. Sin Gaming, they have acquired BRB20. So this has been a pretty nice leap from the sort of League of Legends Riot area into Counter-Strike. And what better way to do it with BRB20, a CGP now team?
Yeah, well, they are now CGP, as you say. It's Void, Kalth, Lacore, Andy, and Blitz. So it's a couple of players from Funky Monkeys. It's ex-Funky Monkeys now. It used to be the FM core, but they had quite a few people step down. Andy and Blitz, still part of the team. Waffy went to go play for Legacy for a bit. I'm forgetting, Yoramato, that's his name, announced he was retiring, and I think Stat went to focus on Year 12 or something like that. So that's where the other three players went, but they've grabbed themselves very capable players in Kalth, Lacore, and Void. So they're now under Sin, and I think a quick Google would only tell me, I haven't been around the scene forever, so Google helps me learn things. But as far as I can find out, Sin haven't had a Counter-Strike team before, so this is a new space for them, but they're jumping straight into CGP, so if you're going to start anywhere, start at the top, right?
Yeah, pretty big step there for both the organization and the players, I guess. Also want to point out, as a sort of a highlight as well, I mean, these players have been doing very great individually, especially Void, who's, I don't think has been CGP proven as of yet. He's sort of been in a few rosters in that CGM.
Yeah, I don't think he's been in CGP.
Oh, he has been?
I don't think he has been.
No. Yeah, so it's more towards that CGM, CGI level of things, and he's really stepped up in terms of his individual skill level since then. So, like, pretty amazing to see there from Void. Hopefully he can continue that through as the league progresses. We're only at the start, of course. But, yeah, I mean, looking at things for Sin, great steps for them if they, for their debut into Counter-Strike here.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. One thing to note as well, you have that tweet up on screen, I believe. If you look at the replies, you see Sin has all of their Twitter handles. Void's is Void_CS, not at Void. That's like a Brazilian developer, I think. So
there you go.
Yeah, if you do go and follow them on Twitter from this, it's Void_CS. There you go. Got you back, Void. You're welcome, buddy. But yeah, that's Sin grabbing themselves a team, which is exciting because it's like they're I think one of the few big tier 1 orgs in Australia that doesn't do CSGO. Because if you think about the other big organizations, especially the big OPL orgs, you're looking at your Avant Gaming, your Legacy, your Chiefs, those sorts of teams. The really big ones all have Counter-Strike teams, with the exception of Sin, and of course, obviously other OPL teams that I don't know because I don't watch OPL. But it's a big name in Australia. It's been noticeably missing from Counter-Strike.
No, you're absolutely right, and as time goes on, I really hope to see more from Sin Gaming, and probably hopefully to stick through with this roster because it has been showing some great signs early on. So that's pretty much Sin Gaming all wrapped up, and of course, we did mention before they will be competing in CGPL Spring. Let's roll the clock back a little bit here for qualifications for CGPL. So last week we talked about how we were in the midst of Cybergamer Premier League qualifications, and now they have come to a conclusion. We see here Righteous, Avant, BRB20 / Sin Gaming now, and Kings all making it through their CGP division. So pretty good things to see here, I would say, Tim.
Yeah, so the full lineup of teams in CGP this season, if you haven't seen it, in X-Dark Sin, which is the lineup we just talked about, Greyhound, everyone knows by now, Avant Gaming, Tainted Minds, and Riders Raccoons. So really the only new names in there are Kings and Sin. All the other, at least the majority of, Riders Raccoons as well. The other 5 teams, the majority of their members, if not entire lineups, have seen CGP before. Chiefs obviously have Atletico Darksided. They were CGP as Darksided, weren't they? Greyhounds and Avant and Tainted Minds, obviously, all the same deal there. But Riders, Raccoons, Kings, as a team, not as individuals, but the Raccoons, Kings, and Sin are really the new, I guess, additions. And for Sin as well, the Funky Monkeys guys, they only have 2 of them left in there now, but they're a team who never made CGP, despite making it all the way through CGA into CGI. I think they played like 2 or 3 seasons of CGI. As Funky Monkeys, they never made it to CGP, whereas now, as Sin, with this new 5, they have.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an interesting point to make, and even more so the fact that there has been 3 different lineups pretty much in these qualifications, and Avant have managed to stay alive during all of these relegations. So really, pretty wild stuff in the sense that you'd sort of expect sort of the top 8 to top 6 teams to be determined, but with the new rosters of teams such as Righteous, Raccoons, and Kings, they've got a lot to prove, and so far so good for them. So that's pretty much the qualifications, and of course that pretty much leads us into our next point as well, which is actually CGPL beginning as well, which is actually just around the corner. If you are watching this video on its release, it will be this Sunday, I believe, at about 7 p.m. So definitely
AEST, that is.
Exactly, AEST. And yeah, and I mean, it's really good to see. And of course, if I could recommend any league to watch, it would certainly be CGPL, especially knowing the teams that are competing in it. I want to talk.
He said non-biasedly.
Well, I want to mention though that there's going to be some pretty good matchups, some pretty expected ones too. At the same time, they are now up on screen as not quite actually. Let me just make an adjustment real quick. But yeah, I mean, these matchups pretty expected at some point, but also at the same time, we can expect it to be to be some highlight matches, of course, as well. I want to point out here a highlight match, of course, Chiefs versus Kings. I don't think we've seen much of this, but let me tell you, when you do, it is a cracker of a series.
Yeah, I think from memory, the only time we've actually seen Chiefs and Kings play each other was for the Australian Showdown, the Unicorn.
Unicorn, yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure they played there. I can't remember the scores off the top of my head, but I know that Kings won it, which is interesting. And then, actually, that's something that I should mention. It's not in the graphics, so sorry. But speaking of Kings, they did win the AUNZ land, which I think we spoke of last week. But it's something I want to highlight because going into that, everyone thought, oh, Kings are amazing online, and then they had to go to 5 maps in best of 5 versus Avant. But going back online against Chiefs, I don't know. It'll be interesting. For me, it's like, I don't know. It's really hard to rank teams in Australia because everything just changes so much that really you go, these are the top 5 teams, here's everybody else, or top 6 or whatever, but it's really hard to say here's number 1, number 2, number 3. But I mean, it's the other thing is I don't want to judge too much off online CS, but Chiefs versus Kings, the basic point that I'm trying to get at here is that Chiefs versus Kings is always a good game and you should watch it. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple more matchups as well, such as Sin versus Atletico and Righteous versus Tainted Minds. So if you are big fans of
Those will be
those,
interesting.
yeah, if you're big fans of those players and teams, then I do highly recommend that you do go watch. But I mean, as for this show and what we've covered through for this week, it has been pretty quiet, but that's pretty much us summed up. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Pretty short and sweet, but at the same time, definitely more to look at if you are just tuning into this episode. So that's pretty much us here for Week 8, Season 2, Episode 3 of Crossfire. I want to thank everyone for joining. Be sure to stay tuned to our social medias. You can see them on screen, myself, vDeadline, and Brainstorm Cast. Thank you once again, guys, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.